Hi, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you live in the world. Welcome to week 5 of your journey into the world of the unseen. Now, we have been looking at various microbes and their abilities to cause disease. So, what happens though once you do become infected? So, this week we're focusing our attention on the human immune system and the various mechanisms that your body has to protect you from the devastating effects wrought by microbial pathogens. So, I provided links to two videos to help you understand the concepts here in week 5. The first is a video describing the basic functioning of the immune system and how your body responds to infection. And in the second, by Professor Dave, differentiates the innate and the adaptive immune responses. So, this week we'll touch on two topics. In chapter 14, the innate immunity. Now, the innate immune response is the body's rapid, nonspecific, and you want to remember, I was going to say you want to specifically remember nonspecific, but you want to link nonspecific response to innate immunity, okay? Innate means it's within you. You didn't make it, you didn't build it, you were born with it. And so it's very non-specific. That'll become clear as you read on it and as I describe this more. So it serves as a first line of defense and involves various components, including physical barriers like the skin and mucous membranes in your nose and in your upper respiratory tract. Cellular molecular defenders like phagocytes, like neutrophils and macrophages that you've learned about, white blood cells that engulf and destroy pathogens. It includes natural killer cells that target infected or abnormal cells. Um, just in general, it recognizes something as foreign and it attacks that thing and destroys it or tries to destroy it. Now, the innate immune response is immediate and it does not require prior exposure to a specific pathogen. And that's the key here. And that's why we say it's very non-specific, right? Um, it's very general. However, it sets the stage for very specific adaptive immune response. And by virtue of its name, you might have figured that it adapts to your exposure to a pathogen. So where innate is your natural immunity, your inborn immunity, very non-specific, once you become exposed to a pathogen, then the adaptive immune system or adaptive immunity responds. It is the immune part of the immune system that adapts to the new foreign invader. So this is chapter 15. The adaptive immune response is highly specialized. Remember, innate is very general, non-specific. Adaptive is highly specific. It's very specific in its choice of pathogens to attack. So by definition, the adaptive immune response is flexible and it adapts to deal with attacks on a case-by-case basis. It involves two components: humoral immunity, which is governed by B cells. Important that you link that together. Humoral immunity and B cells. B cells, that's a type of white blood cell, a type of lymphocyte involved in the immune response, and cell-mediated immunity that is governed by T cells. So when a pathogen enters the body, specialized cells called antigen-presenting cells, the abbreviation here is APC, engulf and present pieces. So they engulf the bacterium, they break it apart, they take pieces of that bacteria and they present it, right? These are antigen presenting cells. So they take part of that bacteria, which is the antigen, and they present it to T cells. This activates the T cells. Remember, this is cell mediated immunity, right? Cell mediated, mediated by the antigen presenting cells. The T cells directly destroy infected cells, and helper T cells assist other immune cells. Okay, so meanwhile, your B cells, okay, remember that's humoral immunity, recognize the same antigen, they undergo, they become activated, they proliferate, they multiply, they mature into plasma cells that produce antibodies. So the B cells recognize the antigen, that's the part of the bacterium, the invader. They recognize the antigen as foreign and they develop antibodies to the antigen. So the foreigner is the antigen, and the B cells develop antibodies or antigenic antibodies or antibodies to fight the foreign invader based on that little piece of antigen. So they produce antibodies which can neutralize pathogens or mark them for destruction by other immune cells. This adaptive response, remember this whole thing is adaptive immunity, that's the big umbrella, generates immunological memory, that's the B cell part, memory, providing long-term protection against recurrent infections by the same pathogens. So if you um, if you got the measles when you were a kid, right, then your first of all your innate immunity kicks in and tries to handle things non-specifically. That triggers your adaptive immunity to jump in. T cells, the antigen presenting cells, take that antigen, present it to the T cells. The T cells activate and they turn on further, call them cascades. It's steps, step by step by step by step, many steps involved in dealing with that invader. In the meantime, the B cells that are circulating around, there's not many of them, but they're circulating around, they recognize that antigen as well, and they kick into gear, they proliferate, they multiply, you get more and more of these B cells, and they are the cells that create the memory, called the memory B cells. Remember, this is humoral memory, humoral immunity, and that's what humoral refers to, is the memory part. The B cells will create a memory within your immune system to the measles and the measles virus. And so that when later on in life, if you are exposed to the measles again, your humoral immunity will see, you already have the memory there. Your immune system has a memory and it will remember that antigen and it will kick into gear and protect you from getting the measles again. It's a fascinating um, process, and the immune system is completely just amazing in protecting us. And in fact, I took a whole course just on the immune system. So what you're getting here is just barely a drop in the bucket on immunity, but it's enough for you to understand, kind of understand what's going on, hopefully understand at least what's going on the surface in the big picture. All right. Housekeeping items for the week. Make your discussion post early in the week so you can fully engage in the discussion. Topic 5 post is due no later than Friday. That's this Friday, July 25, 11:59 p.m. GCU time. Some of you are still having, some of you still are not, some of you still, how do I put this gently? Maybe some of you still haven't caught on to the idea of the discussion. I said earlier in the term discussion, he said this is a virtual class, so it's difficult. But if we were in a live class, we're all sitting around a big table, and I throw out, a topic for the day, pathogenic E. coli, and we go around the room, and everybody, you've done your research, and everybody throws in their particular ideas and things that they've learned about pathogenic E. coli. That's what the way discussion is supposed to work. In these virtual classes, it's a little more challenging because everything is done online, right? But the point is, if the prompt is there and you respond to the prompt, so you do your research and you develop your ideas and you write them down, and that's your initial post. And then you respond to peers based on what they have written for their initial post. Now, the idea behind the discussion is to either expand on what your colleague has shared with you about, in my case, pathogenic E. coli, or expound on some idea that they shared in their post. So, as you're reading their post, maybe something catches your interest, you do a little more research on that particular thing, and then you write about that, and so that's expounding on their initial idea, and that's your response to them. So you have a minimum of two responses on each of 3 different days during the week in order to earn full participation points, which is 20 total at the end of the week. Some of you are still having, I think, an issue kind of understanding. So last week I pinned a post at the top of the discussion forum, and I tried to explain as best I could how it works. It's 150 words a minimum. Don't spend your 150 words telling your colleague how great their post was and how much you agree with it, and how wonderful that they mentioned this, and how greatly they describe that. Okay, that's not a substantive post. Substantive post is when you expand the discussion that your colleague has started, or you expound on an idea that they shared. And as I said in my pinned post, and I pinned it again this week, um, it's okay to begin, and I do, you've seen mine. I appreciate your response, or I enjoyed reading your response to the prompt this week, and here's what I learned about this that you said, or whatever, okay? But just to shower accolades onto your peers, that's not a substantive post. Even if you have 150, I don't care if you have 300 words. If it's all about you did a good job and I love what you said and you described it, that's not substantive, okay? Also, regarding references, some of you, I read everything and I know what's going on, okay? Some of you do your post and then you might do 2 or 3 paragraphs and then you tack on Anderson et al. At the very end, right, as your reference. Now, come on. All of that, if you've written 2 or 3 paragraphs, if all of that came by way of Anderson, then what you need to do is you can't reference everything at the end, right? You write a paragraph, you need a reference in there. You write a paragraph, you need a reference in there. If everything from Anderson, it's okay if you use Anderson for all those paragraphs, but you can't just write a bunch of stuff and then throw and tack on a reference at the end and say, I'm good to go, I have a reference. The other thing many of you do is when you respond to a peer, you write your stuff and then you copy and paste your peers' references and use them as your own, and then jump up in there in your post, in your response, and you throw in a reference here and a reference there and a reference there. Okay, the idea that's not the way to do discussion. Discussion is, I don't care if you use the other person's references. I mean, if they have good references, but what you need to do, you need to go and you need to check out those references. You need to read them yourself, and then you need to build on that colleague's post or that colleague's information. And if it's the same reference, that's fine. But do not forget to search the GCU virtual library. I have a video. I posted it on day one in class resources to show you how to search the library for peer-reviewed journal articles. And by the way, some of you um, like to do like commercial websites. So I remember in the past several students from either this section or the other section use Carolina Biological Supply website as your reference. That's not substantive. Encyclopedia Britannica is not substantive. Okay, so just be aware. I'd say substantive, but not authoritative. Okay, Encyclopedia Britannica not authoritative. Commercial websites not authoritative. Okay, and also your links when you do an article, that link has to be live, and it must go directly to that reference or that resource that you are citing. Okay, I check those links, and as some of you have found out, I'll go to a link and it opens to nothing. It doesn't even work. And I'll come back and I'll say your links need to work. They need to go. They need to be active. They need to be live, and they need to open directly to the particular article. Some of you are doing like you'll do just a generic CDC, the CDC website as a reference, but the article that you are referencing, right? You do an article that you're referencing, and then you put CDC, and I'll go to the CDC site, and it's not even that article. So those links need to be very specific to those references. Okay, so just be aware of that, and they need to be live. Okay, enough about that, and I don't want to harp, but anyway, human immunity assignment, human immunity quiz this week, both due to July 27th, Sunday night, and my note says I posted an additional optional discussion question. I haven't posted it yet, but I will as soon as I get done here for earning participation points. All right, I have two videos. How your immune system works, and then from Professor Dave, the immune system, innate and adaptive defenses. Let me know how it's going, and yeah, let me know how it's going. If you have any issues or problems, message 804-229-7993. Use your Halo inbox. Those are the two quickest ways to get a hold of me. Still working on getting that tooth fixed, and certainly GCU email. Okay, that's all I have. Have a great rest of the week.